So I wanted to have Ed Werder on the show this week because every year at Thanksgiving, Cowboys are sort of the headline act. They usually, almost always, will have an interesting opponent uh, for the Thanksgiving game. And in addition, this year, the Cowboys are coming off uh, of a very interesting game on Sunday against the Kansas City Chiefs. And Ed, I want to go back for two questions to talk to you a little bit about what happened in Kansas City, but I expected a little bit more of an offensive explosion in Kansas City than we actually saw. Give me your view about why Dallas struggled so much against Steve Spagnuolo's defense.
Well, I agree with you. I think everybody was, had a lot of anticipation about the first Patrick Mahomes, Dak Prescott matchup. And obviously we know what the Chiefs are capable of, although they haven't been quite as dominant offensively as we would have expected. And the Cowboys came into the game leading the NFL in scoring, leading the NFL in offense based on yardage. And it was the first time those two things had happened for the Cowboys since 1995, this late in the season. And in 1995, two big things happened. The Cowboys won their last Super Bowl, and Patrick Mahomes was born. So it's been a while. But so why this happened? I think Mike McCarthy generally does a really good job of preparing a team and a game plan for the moment in terms of who he has available from a personnel standpoint. And, they've been playing without the DeMarcus Lawrence, their best edge rusher, defensive end, highest paid defensive player in franchise history. They haven't had Randy Gregory the last couple of weeks. They didn't have Tyron Smith yesterday for the third straight game. And Dak had to play his first game without Amari Cooper since they acquired him in a 2018 trade. And so I just think they kind of ran out of players on offense. So their offensive line got dominated yesterday, to the extent that after the game was over, I got Patrick Mahomes one-on-one because Fox, which got first choice, wanted Chris Jones. How many times does that happen? We had these great expectations, and Dak and Mahomes didn't deliver. Neither one of them threw a touchdown pass in the game. The Cowboys had, season lows in yards and points, didn't score a touchdown. Dak was really frustrated after the game, said he wasn't disappointed. He was pissed off because of how poorly he played and how poorly the group played. But I think Steve Spagnuolo achieved every one of his objectives that he had set out going into the game defensively. He wanted to make sure that the Cowboys didn't create a lot of explosive plays, didn't dictate the tempo of the game. He wanted at least 2 takeaways. He got 3. So, remarkable performance by Kansas City defensively. Dallas played well on defense too. I thought Dan Quinn did a tremendous job, and Micah Parsons, other than Chris Jones, might have been the best 2 players on the field.
I wanted also to ask you a little bit about Micah Parsons. Look, I didn't write much about. Don't think I wrote much of anything about this game in my column this week, but in having the game on and watching quite a bit of it, one of the things I thought was, the chasing speed of Micah Parsons and the instincts that he has in going after the football are really pretty special. And just give me your thoughts so far about the impact that Parsons has made. And look, we don't often say this about the Cowboys, but they've drafted some players in the last couple of drafts, I think, who really are going to be impact players for a long time.
And what's interesting, Peter, about Micah Parsons is when you go back to the draft, they really were prioritizing cornerback, and they wanted, Pat Surtain, or they wanted J.C. Horn, and those 2 corners went off the board directly in front of them, with the 2 picks immediately in front of them. They did have Micah Parsons as the number 1 rated defensive player on their draft board. And so they went with that, but the players were graded closely enough that the position need would have justified in the Cowboys' mind not picking Micah Parsons. But I think they may have wound up with the best of the three players. We'll see over time. But his versatility is remarkable. I mean, he started yesterday and played left edge for all but 2 snaps, while most of the season he's really been a linebacker who can rush the passer. And I think all the general managers I talked to after the Cowboys picked Micah Parsons like that aspect of his game. They thought he would be immediately a dynamic pass rusher. They weren't so sure about his ability to play second-level linebacker, play against the run, play in coverage, but he's done all of that. And, I think to put it into some kind of context, he's got 8 career sacks, which ties DeMarcus Ware, who was the number 1 draft pick by the Cowboys in 2005. That's the most for a Cowboys rookie since sacks became officially a stat in 1982. And consider that DeMarcus Ware, what his career evolved into, it took him 16 games to do that. Micah Parsons did it in 10. And in 9 of those games, he didn't have DeMarcus Lawrence on the field. And in 3 of the games, he didn't have Randy Gregory on the field. So I know Dan Quinn is eagerly anticipating the moment, which may arrive when they play New Orleans after Thanksgiving, when he has all 3 of those guys on the field at the same time. But yeah, Micah Parsons has been just an unbelievably great player. And Mahomes said it yesterday. He said he's a special player. To be that good of a linebacker and be able to play defensive end, not a lot of guys could do that. He said he has a high motor, chased me down on that sack, the strip sack. He said the whole game he was out there battling, and he was for whatever 68 plays on defense. He's a remarkable young player. A lot of people, I think, in the league who questioned him at all, Peter, questioned his maturity level and his dedication to the game.
Right.
After the New England game, he wasn't happy with his performance in that particular game. He started coming to the facility an hour and a half earlier every day. And we've seen what the results are since that time.
I'll tell you, my memory of Micah Parsons is from training camp this year when I met him for the first time. And when I caught up with Mike McCarthy, and this was early in training camp. This was maybe a week into training camp, and they got there early because they had the early game this year.
Hall of Fame game, yeah.
Yeah. And Mike McCarthy told me, and I'm guessing this was around July 30th. So this was 6 weeks before opening day. And he said to me that day, Micah Parsons has earned a role in our offense opening day. Now, for Mike McCarthy to say that, I'm not saying that he does not play rookies or anything like that. I'm not saying that at all, but he has really been, over time that I've known him, a prove-it guy. And for Parsons to have proven what he proved in training camp early on in the first week, that was impressive to me. I think the other thing that is interesting, he's one of those guys, Ed, who didn't play his last year at Penn State. And he didn't have a huge college resume. But people looked at his game in 2019, loved what they saw. And just like the other player who was like him in the draft, who hasn't had the impact that he's had so far, is Gregory Rousseau, who went from Miami to Buffalo, University of Miami to Buffalo. And they're counting on that kind of sort of impact from him. But I just think the one thing that I really, really like about him is how instinctive he is. And when I saw him chase down Mahomes, I just said to myself, man, and you hate to use this, I really do, but he reminded me of Lawrence Taylor on that play. It's almost like when people say, yeah, Mac Jones reminds me of Tom Brady. You don't want to do that. You don't want to jinx the poor guy, but holy cow. And the other thing about him, just in the interviews I've seen, you've been around him far more than I have, but he just seems to be somebody who not only is the game not too big for him, but he thinks that he's really good right now, and there's no excuse for him not to make a huge impact.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you mentioned Lawrence Taylor, because that's the name that has been whispered out at the Star in the Cowboys front office. I reached out maybe a month ago, and I said, I'm not sure you guys have ever really had a player like this. I mean, he's not like DeMarcus Ware, because Ware he could rush the passer, but he couldn't do all the other things Parsons does as a linebacker. And I said, who is he most like that you've had? And the answer was, he's not like anybody we've ever had. And don't say this, don't quote me, but he reminds me of Lawrence Taylor a little bit. So There you have it. I mean, and if you look statistically at what he's done already, I mean, in terms of tackles and sacks, I think there hasn't been a linebacker do this in his rookie year since Brian Urlacher in 2000. And like I said, half a season, he's matched the rookie accomplishment of DeMarcus Ware. These are pretty accomplished defensive players that we're talking about and comparing a guy to based on his productivity equaling what these guys have done. And they're either in the Hall of Fame or going to be in the Hall of Fame. And I'm not saying Micah Parsons is going to be. But man, I don't know where they'd be without him, quite honestly, on defense right now.
Ed, we'll finish up with this. I don't know who's good. I don't know what team is really, really good right now. And as crazy as this sounds, I had a conversation with Colt McCoy after the Cardinals won in Seattle on Sunday. I think the Cardinals might really be good. I mean, they have been, everybody misses players, but they've been missing a bunch of guys. They missed Kyler Murray 3 weeks in a row. I think the Cardinals might really be good. Okay. And everybody else has stumbled. Almost everybody else this season has stumbled, and quite honestly, stumbled badly. So take a look now at the league and tell me, who do you really like right now? And who do you think is going to emerge from this morass of win 2, lose 1, even with the great teams,
Well, we've talked about, the teams that have loaded up and gone all in this year, and everybody recognizes the Rams are that team. But they've been physically manhandled the last 2 weeks by the 49ers and the Titans.
Tennessee, yeah.
And I think the Cardinals kind of fit that description too. Maybe people haven't recognized it because they made their moves in free agency more than they did at the trading deadline. But you mentioned it. I mean, you're without Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, J.J. Watt, and they've gone on the road and won all 6 of their games on the road, all by double digits. Maybe the division's not what it used to be because the 49ers aren't as good. Seattle's not as good as they've been in recent years. But yeah, I have a lot of respect for what the Cardinals have done. And I think the most important thing, Peter, is they're taking the approach with these injured players. Like they're planning on a 20-game season, not a 17-game season. If you're thinking about 17 games, then you're playing Kyler Murray when it's kind of close, and you're playing DeAndre Hopkins if he can go at all and give you something. I think Steve Keim and Cliff Kingsbury recognize how important the season is. I think they see the chance that they have, and they realize after last year that you need Kyler Murray at 100%. He just not as effective. He's not effective enough in terms of being a unique and dynamic quarterback if he's playing injured like he did when he came back last year. And so they're trying to get him fully healthy. And so I think holding him out yesterday was really smart. And they won the game in Seattle with Colt McCoy. And now they got a bye week. So you're looking at Kyler Murray being really healthy for the final, 2 months of the regular season and the first couple rounds of the playoffs.
I'll tell you who I think might really be good is New England. I mean, it's almost like, how you sort of run your life and you basically say that, okay, yeah, it's your turn to do this now. Or, if you have 5 kids and say, yeah, it's Joey's turn to go to work with dad or whatever like that. It's almost like the poor Buffalo Bills. This was their turn, to win this division, to dominate for a while. And the Patriots come in and say, no, it isn't. it's always our turn. And that's
last year was your turn when we were making the transition and we had to go with a stopgap guy and Cam Newton. That was your turn and you blew it. Like you got to the championship game, you didn't get all the way. We're back.
Yeah.
I mean, what they've done on defense, Belichick's, playing a lot of zone now, which is unusual for him. And I think you can't give Josh McDaniels enough credit for how he's, developed Mac Jones and the way they played on offense. And, Bill Belichick always takes kind of the first month as he views it as an extension of the preseason. And then, after 4 games, you know who you are and how to play. And the Patriots, they do a remarkable job in making sure that they're competitive in every situation. And here they come again. And you know what? I wouldn't rule out the Kansas City Chiefs. They've won 4 in a row too.
Yeah.
And they're pretty good.
Their defense is coming back. Yeah. I think they're a very interesting team. I said this to somebody this week who said to me, or last week, who said to me, man, it's so bizarre. I don't know. I don't have any idea who's good and all that. And I said, but isn't that fun? Should you want to wake up on Sunday morning knowing who's going to win? No, what fun is that? Isn't it fun when Houston losing 8 in a row goes into Tennessee and cream pies the Titans?
A team that's beaten every playoff team that they've faced in the last 6 weeks. They've beaten, and they lose to one of the worst teams in football. And they did it earlier too. They lost to the Jets.
Yeah.
They've lost to the Jets and the Texans, and until yesterday, we thought they were the best team in the league. Well, you know what? You just talked about the Patriots. I think the Vrabels go to play the Patriots this week, right?
Yeah.
Vrabel tries to beat Belichick for the 3rd straight time.
Yeah, that's
who the only other coach is who's done that?
No.
Dave Wanstead.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard. Is that true?
It was his third of those 3 wins came in Tom Brady's 2nd game as a starting quarterback. So he got him at the right time. But it's Dave Wanstead.
That's hilarious. Ed Werder, thanks so much for joining me. Really appreciate it. Hey, have a really, really happy Thanksgiving. And by the way, what is your Thanksgiving like? What do you do when you cover a game on Thanksgiving?
Well, for a long time, we've lived in Dallas for almost 30 years now. And Thanksgiving game is always a home game for the Cowboys. And usually it's worth covering, like you said. And so almost every year I've covered the game. And we went from, hey, a traditional Thanksgiving dinner at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock or whatever to, I guess I got to cover the game. We're going to have it at noon. And now it's like, I have to be out there so early doing pregame stuff. Like the whole day is now devoted to covering the Cowboys Thanksgiving Day game. And so we go somewhere on Wednesday night now. Jill's made dinner for us, but now it's just me, Jill, and Christy at home in Texas. The rest of our family's in Colorado. So it's just the 3 of us. So we're like going to Capitol Grill or whatever on Wednesday night and having Thanksgiving on Wednesday night and then covering the game. And hey, can I leave you with one good note here?
Yeah,
going into this
please.
Thanksgiving game against the Raiders. So let's look at how the Cowboys have done against the 3 other AFC West teams they've played this year, okay? The Cowboys scored 20 points against the Chargers in week 2. That was their fewest points in any game started by Dak Prescott until 2 weeks ago. They scored 16 against the Broncos from the AFC West, which was their low in any game Dak Prescott had started until yesterday when they scored 9 points against the Kansas City Chiefs. So Rich Bisaccia has a shot on Thanksgiving Day at Jerry World.
I think it's very clear. The Cowboys are going to be held to a field goal, and they're going to lose 31-3 on Thanksgiving. Yeah.
And you know what? One other thing in this never-ending close, the Cowboys, I like the fact that Mike McCarthy, Dak Prescott have made it clear that they think this is a Super Bowl opportunity for them, that they're capable of that. And yeah, hey, they're 7-3. They were bad yesterday in a moment where we expected a lot more if they're going to be a different kind of a Cowboys team than we've seen in recent years. But I would keep in mind that they're 7-3, but 2 of the losses are to last year's Super Bowl teams, Tampa Bay and Kansas City, both on the road and by a combined 12 points. So maybe Cowboy fans should just hang in there just a little longer with this group.
Yeah. Hey, look, it's a weird thing to say. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's even close. So I think it's going to be a fun last 2 months. Ed Werder, thanks a lot. Happy Thanksgiving. Look forward to seeing you actually in person somewhere soon.
Happy holidays. Thanks for having me.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.